Good morning, afternoon, evening, or wherever you're listening, wherever you're from. We hope you're enjoying it, having a good day so far. I am Jason, and welcome to Well, That Didn't Work. Uh, Today, we're going to go tripping through one of my favorite mediums out there. It's a hoot and holler. I've had fun developing this world. I've spent many a night working on it. If you know anything about me, it's this. Alice in Wonderland, a book by Lewis Carroll, written back in 1866, 1865, depending on what country you live in. Anyway, I've developed a world built in the Savage World system that revolves around Alice. I do borrow liberally from the Alice or Wonderland No More rule set that is available online if you are so inclined to read up more about it. But at the table tonight, I've got a few other players with me who want to go traipsing about Wonderland, or my version of Wonderland. And with me, I've got Rick.
Howdy.
I've got Kevin.
Hi.
I've got Percy.
Hey, everybody.
And sadly, not here tonight, but with us in spirit is
and in tech
tech through the magical means that is Skype /
just the
internet. We've got Mike.
As long as it doesn't stay broken, I'm here.
Correct.
He's on a telegraph.
So, just real quick, if y'all haven't ever played in the Savage World system, it runs basically similar to D&D, although skills run a little bit differently. They run anywhere from an unskilled check, which is a D4 minus 2, all the way up to a D12. There is no D20s in this system. Character creation, we are going to go through that live and in living color tonight. I think y'all will appreciate how we kind of build characters. Plus, this is the first time that half of the table has, played in my version of Wonderland. And I also want to go through and explain some of the homebrew rules that I have built up and just go through sort of concept creation. So that way, when things kick off, they're not totally in the dark. So with that, I know I talked to y'all a little bit about this, but just to give y'all a little bit of background, character creation goes pretty smoothly. If you have the Savage Worlds book, which at the time of recording, it's only out in PDF form. It's not out in print form. So we're using the 3rd edition version. So it's the Explorer's edition.
Yeah, and we may shift over to the Adventurer's Guide when it publishes.
We're hoping to, but
yeah,
we're just waiting because again, not everybody has access. So we're sticking with 3rd edition. So for those of you out there who are super familiar with it, apologies, but we're sticking to 3rd because it's the only one available in print right now at the time of recording.
Yeah.
So if you go through character creation, it kind of takes you through it fairly simplistically, starting on page 16. You pick a race. The world we're in, sadly, I have deemed only humans available.
Well, not sadly. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It is the world.
It is
we're game with it.
Yeah.
It is England.
Yeah. So race, you can pick anything available in the book. Usually they have a lot of custom races that you can build. But for the most part, most everybody usually picks standard human because humans start with a benefit of an extra edge. Because usually custom built races have benefits and drawbacks that they don't get those edges. Then you pick your traits. Traits are 5 different types. They're called attributes. You have agility, smarts, spirit, strength, and vigor. Those all range again on a D4 up through a D12 and can even exceed a D12. They get modifiers to them once you get above a D12. But most of the time, your attributes usually cap out at a D12. It's pretty rare for them to go higher. Skills, same thing. There's a suite of skills that are on, if you have the physical copy, they're on page 48 in the book. It tells you what attribute those are tied to, because you may not have every skill available to you at the start of character creation. You spend points equal to 15 to get those different skills raised. So it takes a point to open the skill, i.e. get it to a D4. And then every other die type that you get up to your attribute cost 1 point. To go above your attribute costs 2. So basically, that's just the one thing you have to remember when picking skills is once you hit your attribute cap, it costs you more to get it higher. And then you start doing your derived stats. Those come from skills and attributes. So you have charisma, you have pace, you have parry, and you have toughness. You also have sometimes other derived stats depending on the system you're playing in. In Deadlands, sometimes they have guts based off a derived stat, or in the horror book, it's based their sanity that's a derived stat. But in my world, I treat those as skill checks. So when I say make a sanity roll, it's usually derived off of your spirit and then the skill based around that. Then you have edges and hindrances. That's what kind of makes your character complete. It fleshes it out. In Wonderland, however, I have the additional request of having some sort of fear or stigma or some sort of social tick that's usually on the negative side. It doesn't always have to be super negative. It can be, like you have the fear of bees. Doesn't mean that I won't use that liberally against you, but who knows? It's just something that I, the GM, can play with, and it gives that little bit more depth to your character. I recommend that for a lot of things. In hindrances and Savage World also give you the benefit of adding different things to your. So for every major hindrance, you get 2 points. For every minor hindrance, you get 1 point, up to 4 points, and then you can use that to buy like a different attribute, raising that by 1 level. You can choose a new edge for 2 points. For 1 point, you can gain another skill point, or you can get additional cash to help, say, augment your character to have them have better gear at character start. Then you buy your gear, you fill in the background details, and guess what? Now you've got a character. Woohoo! Okay, so that's kind of the basic stuff with Savage Worlds, but it's usually a little bit more nuanced than that. I also have a few custom skills that I'm going to go over now. Also the setting. So real quick, we're basing our world. It's 1895 in London. Y'all are all there for one reason or another. That's yet to be determined as we go through character creation. I kind of want this to be an open conversation with y'all. Y'all already have some comments, so kick them about. But kind of what were y'all thinking as characters? What brought you to London, and what sort of character were you thinking about being? And I'll start with the guy who's remote access. So Mike, what were you kind of kicking around in your brain pan, so to speak, as you gear up to be dropped off into Wonderland?
Well, so at this point in time, we're talking about kind of where the world is starting to what's considered mechanized, right? And what I mean by that is, like clockwork and gears and working through those types of things. So that's really what I was kind of leaning more towards. So I'm focusing my character more towards a clockmaker.
Yeah, which I think is really cool. So we were talking and kicking around some ideas about, being someone who's not necessarily like an average Joe, like factory worker, but someone with a little bit more tech experience.
An artisan.
Yeah, an artisan, a craftsman of high regard. And so I really like that idea. And so I don't know how y'all feel about that, but kind of what's y'all's take on that? I mean, cars are invented, but they're not prolific. I mean, we don't have the factory yet. We don't have Ford's inventive assembly line yet. So they're very rare and very expensive. So I liked where Mike was going with this. I don't know how y'all feel about that, but what's sort of y'all's take on that?
Well, clockmaking, I mean, it actually goes back a lot farther than that. When you're talking about mechanized, you're talking more about, powered, devices, steam power and things like that. But clockworking goes way back. But yeah, clockworking is the finest. It's always been respected, especially at the time, as one of the highest levels of technical expertise to build a working clock.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's a clock collector, which is a weird thing to walk into his home to. He has, I think, somewhere upwards of 59 clocks, and he's got some that date back pre-1890s.
Has he clocked you a few times?
No, he's never no.
Just don't break his clocks, right?
Yeah, no, he's actually tried to give me some of them to get rid of them.
I've actually got an old brass ship clock You know, that's
nice.
from,
Yeah.
you know, early 1930s.
Yeah.
I've got an old Air Force clock. My grandfather was in the Air Force. Yeah, the clock making has been around a long time, but I get where Mike was going. It at the turn of the century in the 1900s, it wasn't just an artisan craft. It was a like, what more can we do with our timepieces? They started becoming battery powered and more electrified. So I got where he was going with it, and I think it's a cool character concept. So, Mike, when you were thinking about that, sort of where
I just can't wait for the cuckoos.
Yeah. so where were you thinking about like stacking some of your skills? Like, what were you looking at? Were you thinking more a knowledge-based character, or were you looking at more like a tinkerer type character?
Well, he's definitely more of a knowledge-based character. Yes, the tinkering is there, but I do believe that it's more of the knowledge-based character just because he's not your standard craftsman. He's more of your artisan.
Right. So with that, I think we have an idea of what Mike's gonna play. Kevin, have you landed on a decision yet?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do Hot Shot Cop. I'm gonna play a police detective.
So are you going to be more Scotland Yard based, or are you going to be more standard like?
I was thinking that I moved from overseas, from the U.S.
Okay, so more like a street detective from like Philadelphia or New York, or.
I haven't quite pinned down why I moved over yet, but.
But did you join the force, or were you invited to join because you had a reputation preceding you?
I joined. I didn't have a reputation. I mean, there rarely wouldn't have been a reputation preceding me at that point in time. So, I will have joined after I came over.
Okay, no, that's cool. So we've got one Yankee in our London court. Rick, I know you were talking about a couple of different things. One, I kind of had to go, let's pass on that one. You can give that one. I don't mind. I think given the setting, you kind of have to agree. I think your second choice was probably a little better, but go ahead and give both choices so that way the audience can hear it. But just kind of, if everybody else at the table likes it, I'm fine with it too. I think it's going to be a harder sell.
Well, the one of my choices would play more into the type of characters I play most of the time anyway. So, which would have been an Indian, would have been American Indian getting away from, because at that time they hadn't really wiped out their culture yet. In the 1890s, he could have been older and he would have, his culture.
Yeah, there were still some
thriving.
holdouts, but it's still, it was difficult. To put it mildly.
Right, but he would have grown up in his culture.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I've always been fascinated, by different Indian cultures and the beauty in their culture. So I thought about an opportunity to play that, but a lot of the characters I play have spiritual overtones and things like that. So I went to the other side, and basically I'm an ex-Indian hunter. Grew up in Texas. Basically the Comanches raided his place. He doesn't have, he knows people that had, real severe, because the Comanches were a pretty vicious lot. But then they ruled, they ruled the plains in Texas. And so he basically left because he got under a commander who had a personal grudge against him, and he started attacking innocent Indians and not just Comanches, and he turned him in and whatnot, and then he left the army. He was a deserter. So he had to leave the country eventually. He kind of hid out for a while, but eventually he realized he had to leave the country, and that's how he ended up over in England. So he would have been a scout, basically.
Yeah. So I kind of like that idea. I think that plays well. It gives them a reason A to be in England. It gives a good purpose. Drives a little bit more at his backstory, which again to me is important, especially for this game because of the way I want to take and do some things. So Percy, you and I were the ones kind of going back and forth the most on this, mainly because.
Oh, gee, no kidding, really?
You think?
So trying to build a character? Oh.
So Percy, what are you going to go with? Or what ideas do you have? And you can go ahead and pitch your real good one.
Okay, let's limit that to 3.
I think you only had 3, honestly.
And which one was going to break the game? I just want to know.
I've got a
which
4th that I didn't tell you.
Okay.
See?
Well, what was the one that you kept trying to sell me real hard?
I want to be a dog. I want to be a dog because in Wonderland I could talk and do useful things, and then I would have to figure it out in the real world. Jason said no.
I think
keep coming up with these great character concepts,
You
and the
know what?
GMs keep shutting me down.
I really like that idea.
I know, right?
It's very interesting, and not even just like even if you couldn't talk in Wonderland.
But
I'm not even thinking about
be
that.
like a schnauzer.
It's a
that,
podcast. He has to be able to talk.
I can describe what I do
He can
without
he can
being
bark
in
into the
character
mic.
voice.
Yeah.
If that makes
Bow
sense.
wow.
Like I can
Look, I'm talking. Bow wow wow.
That's true.
No.
I can describe
Let
what
me
I
hear
do
your
without
bow
being
wow. I
in
wanna
character.
hear
I'm
your
not
bow
going to
wow.
give you a bow wow. Not unless I'm allowed to play the character. I'm not going to give myself to that
Well, if you
voice.
gave a good enough bow wow, we might all argue on your
I'm
behalf.
already arguing on his behalf.
I know.
I'm not going to give myself to that voice if I don't get to keep it.
so. Let's move along. What
Wait,
were
you're passing on the dog?
Yeah.
He's not going to let me do the dog. It's
It's
not, nobody
can't-
wants me to have fun in this.
I can't believe you. I mean, Mike,
You
would
want
you
me to be a
pass on the
dog?
dog? This sounds like a great idea to me.
You know what? I'm going to defer to the GM on that one. That's not my game. I'm just going to play the passive aggressive.
That's been
Sure.
sitting, if I have heard one.
That's it. You know what? That sounds like he just he.
It sounds like he likes
he's
the
on our
idea.
side. Yeah, it sounds
But
like
he doesn't
he's on
want to
our
admit
side.
that he likes the
Yeah.
idea. I'm going to take that as a yes.
Yeah.
Mike's a yes.
That's
Kevin's
3.
a yes.
That's 3-2.
Yeah, but my weight carries more.
Yeah.
Bet.
Yep. That's all that matters.
Cool. So that's one idea. I'm in love with that idea. I'm probably more infatuated with that idea because I got told no.
Exactly. I've noticed that when I told him a character that I really didn't want him to play for my D&D game, that's the only one he's always bringing up. He wanted to do a centaur with all this other stuff, and I was like, at first,
And he let me
"Eh,"
do it, and then
I was like,
"Hey, it's
okay,
fine."
and then he's like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. And I'm like, I had to build centaurs. I had to plan out how centaurs would interact in my game, build a whole culture around the centaurs, and then he's like, and then I even included some of his ideas in the centaurs that I built.
Intuitive rogue does sound really good, though.
I know. Anyway,
Go ahead.
so that's one idea. Another idea I had.
I think if you let him play a dog, it has to be a Chihuahua.
I was going to be a schnauzer. I was not going to be a dangerous dog.
Okay.
Corgi.
Chihuahuas are dangerous.
Corgi doesn't make sense.
In
It does in
England,
England,
it
it
does.
I guess
Yeah.
maybe. So another idea was to be a beastmaster, essentially to have a dog. That was the
That
next
sounds
step.
like an awful idea. Move on.
That was the next
I
logical
don't like
step.
that idea.
But then I was told the dog would eventually own me in Wonderland, and I was against that idea.
That's why you want to be a dog,
So-
and then you'll have a pet human.
Exactly. You guys. And then Jason's trying to convince me to be a mad scientist,
Dr. Strange.
which sounds funny. It sounds fun and
He's
goofy.
never seen Doctor Strangeglove. I showed him clips. He was like, "Now I have to."
Doctor Strange Glove.
love.
Yeah,
That's Dr.
That's
Strange.
a different. That's a parody movie, I think.
No, it's Doctor Strangeglove.
What?
Dr.
Or
Strange
how?
Love.
Is it
No,
Strange
Strange
Love?
Love. It's Strange Love.
Strange Love.
Okay.
Strange Glove would be a parody. movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that would be a parody.
Something entirely
Or
different.
How I Learned to Quit Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Yeah.
Yes. So that one sounds interesting, and I'm intrigued by it. But my fourth idea that I haven't told you about
Okay.
is to
Be a
essentially give a sort of madman's origin story to Gentleman Jack.
I'm just telling you. You just like with multiple choice, your first answer is always the best one.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm equally intrigued
What if he's my dog?
by, and then Kevin can become the pet, as we've discussed previously.
I didn't say I was a beastmaster. I just said, "What if you're my dog?"
I am your dog.
So you'd be a police dog.
So I'm kind of I the Beastmaster was because I wanted to be He-Man, and then that's been kind of vetoed. Basically, I could be a Beastmaster, but I wouldn't get to be He-Man. That's not as interesting to me.
I mean, the
Why don't you let it be a
legitimate
s-
answer among all those is probably the mad scientist, but the best answer
Is the dog.
is the dog.
I think the second best answer is being.
But then again, you wouldn't
Because
get a
here's
really
the thing.
cool
Here's
stat
the
line.
because I normally can't stand them, but our parties never have a literal murder hobo.
Please don't be a murderer.
I'm not gonna be a murder, but like I think it would be fun to play.
A hobo?
No, Jack, aka the Ripper, as he declines into madness to begin his sprees.
Sadly, Jack the Ripper was slightly earlier, but we're not going to hold that against you.
I know, but this is fiction, okay?
Yeah, I know. Pseudo fiction.
Yeah, sort of. I took
Listen,
great
if they can
pains
have-
to lay out.
If they
the
can have
Indian
Cyber
Wars.
Jack the Ripper, we can have Jack the Ripper 10 years late. Come on.
Well, I mean, if you haven't seen the brochures, Jack the Ripper made it to Galveston.
Mm,
There's a ghost tour specifically about that.
really? Interesting.
Supposedly, yeah.
I'll show it to you after the
Anyway.
podcast.
All right.
So
So
now,
what are we? What do you guys think of out of my 4 ideas? What do you think?
Number one.
I
I mean,
know.
if everybody at the table is cool with having a dog in the party, I said I would consider it, but it needed to be cleared by everyone at the table because it is going to be difficult to play with as a
Not
party
for me.
group.
If he's going to be in England, he has to be an English dog of some type.
I could have brought him with me. I already said I'll take ownership.
I don't
of
care
him.
what kind of dog I am.
I wanted to see him be a lab.
I could be a
Be
lab.
friendly to everybody and lick their face. And,
Not all labs are friendly.
most labs. Yes, you can get a lab that's not, but that's rare.
Anyway, so clearly Kevin's on board with this, so I don't think we have to sell him on this. We know where Percy's vote lies. Rick,
I would have. I mean, quite honestly, because of the fact that we go into Wonderland and he would have a voice. And he would probably end up. He would be the one that would chase the rabbit down the hole.
oh boy,
But it's up to you. It ultimately is up to you.
Mike, Mike.
Dog has to stay, Mike.
Every Percy has his day too, apparently.
So I guess that means I need to walk around with a rolled up magazine.
All right.
Is
Or
that
a
Mike saying
pooper
he's on
scoop.
board?
A pooper scooper.
He was on board from the get-go.
I
We
know,
just
he
had
was
to get
always on
everyone
board.
else to agree.
So
I don't think you'll
here's
have
the
human
thing, Percy.
stats, though.
Here's the thing, Percy.
Yes.
You do not get. So this is why I wanted to have this conversation and saved you for last.
Okay.
Because I was legitimately going to let you have the dog if the
Okay.
rest of the table agreed.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where it was like, if I let anybody know this, you're going to try to hard sell them on the dog.
I was going to do that anyway. But okay.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
So y'all be thinking about y'all's characters. I need to talk to him real quick so we can establish his stats real quick.
Yeah. Because does it have how to build a race in this book?
It does. So if you go to just
Here's
after
races.
yes. So the way this
Making
will,
races. Okay.
Yeah.
I get begin with a D8 in one attribute.
that's for +3 abilities.
Oh, that's +3. Okay,
Yep.
yeah. Let's see. If you're the game master, decide on the maximum number of racial edge points
Yep.
allowed. So, how many racial edge points do I get?
You because you are playing a rote standard animal, you will be able to have a total of +1.
Ooh.
So you can take some -3 stuff, but again, so here's my thinking on it,
Okay.
just so that way you can get some of the nicer abilities. Is you're going to have 2 -3 abilities in standard dog form in the real world. We'll play around with it in Wonderland, and we'll talk some more offline. We won't belabor we'll show off maybe the character sheets once we kind of get it more firmly established, because things
Okay.
will change in Wonderland. Just be aware of that, everybody who's listening.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go through some of that as well once I get into the meat of it. I'm letting kind of the other 3 players build, but this is a kind of a custom thing, and I'm glad we're doing this because it's good for the podcast. It's good to educate. I'm thinking that you should not have a smarts above a D6. That's one of your -3 abilities. and you should not
I've
have
known some pretty smart dogs.
right, but a D6 is above average.
Sure.
So, like you could anything above a D6 is hard to get to as a dog. Let's just be honest.
Write this stuff on the back.
Have you met Lassie?
I have, but again, I would say she's rolling on a D6 on a standard Savage Worlds character sheet. Also, your strength, unless it's modified by teeth or claws, can't go above a D6 either. You're not able to do like superhuman strength stuff. You get what I'm saying? Unless it's like you're doing something strength-wise with teeth, you know, because a dog.
So you're essentially giving me +7 to start with.
Correct.
Well, what if he's a mastiff?
Can I argue that strength doesn't make sense because there are very like.
Well, what
dogs,
dog are you
when
going to be?
Because dogs, when they like, sure, dogs can't lift necessarily heavy things.
Well, if you're a mastiff, you can lift.
Well,
right.
Even an American
quick,
Bull Terrier.
So quick.
I think the D6 for smarts I'm okay with for dogs in general, but I think before putting a negative to the strength, we got to decide what kind of dog.
Well, yeah,
I think mastiff is good
because if you were a Doberman or a Australian Shepherd, your smarts might be up there pretty high.
Here's why I'm willing to do this, because remember what I said earlier about skills running off of abilities.
Yes.
There's only one in the entire list of skills that runs off strength, and that's climbing. And that's why I'm okay with limiting it to a D6, because most of the time it's going to be running off of agility. A dog is usually quicker than a human.
I say yes, the attack ability is based off agility, but the strength of damage is not. And if you've seen a dog bite,
that's why I said
they can rip chunks, and that comes from strength, not agility.
And that's why I said unless it's modified by teeth, like strength teeth, I'm okay with. It doesn't run off.
Well, I think that's a Genesis game at that point. I don't think that's a Savage Worlds game at that point.
So,
hey, Percy?
Yes.
Percy, I'm going to have to interject here and go back to he is the GM.
No, I understand, but I think at the same time, like it's got to be a genuine conversation. I think that's worth having.
And I agree too, and that's why, like I said, those are the two skills that I don't think you should get above a D6.
Right, but you treat the teeth. You treat the teeth instead of a strength. You have the base strength that you've got, but you treat the teeth like it's a dagger or something.
Yeah, it gets a plus automatically to it. So, like when you are making attack with teeth, you have a plus modifier on your D6.
Okay. So is there like a natural weapon?
Yes, there is.
Plus, which one is that?
That is, of course, you have to ask me for this before I can remember where it is. I think it's in attacks. They've got some things there for modifiers, or maybe it's in one.
I'm talking about for like the racial abilities, because I think that's what we would need to figure out.
Yeah, there's.
Because I think I got to spend my points to get that. I would think.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm looking at some of the races here.
Natural weapons such as claws that cause strength plus D6.
Yeah. So
is the +1.
So claws for the cat folk in character are strength plus a D6 damage and a +2 to climbing rolls. So like if I said okay teeth, it would it would be strength plus D6 with a +2 or a +4. You get what I'm saying? Like I would give you like you get.
Well, no, I think what you're saying makes sense. I'm on board. I just would almost limit the agility of a dog over the strength.
Oh, that's what it was.
Well, but agility also measures your speed, so like your pace should be faster.
It does.
So that's why I'm saying I think you should be a fast boy, not necessarily a strong boy. Your spirit, I think because of how important it is in this game, especially, I don't want to limit that one just because and this goes for the rest of y'all as y'all are building and for the listeners at home. I have a custom skill, and this is a good time to introduce this. Just like in Savage Worlds, in Deadlands, the Deadlands expansion, they have something called Guts, and that normally runs off Vigor. In this, you have the skill called Sanity. Make sure that you have at least a D4 in Sanity, unless of course you want to go mad all the time, but it runs off the spirit die. So your capper is the spirit. That's its relation.
Since he's my dog, can I name him?
Sure.
All right, I'm going to think of a really good name for you, Percy.
To be your dog?
Well, remember, he'll have his own name once he maybe learns to talk. But
so here, I would like to offer a compromise.
Okay.
Because the other -3 ability in making the races is that it costs double to increase that die at any time, character creation and in advancing.
Okay.
What if that was the strength thing? So it's not that it's limited to only a D6, but I have to use 2 advancements to bump it up.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Because that's still a -3 ability. It still is severely detrimental to like increasing anything
for attribute wise, yeah.
But it doesn't say absolutely no.
Yeah, I think that's a fair compromise. Yeah. I'm fine with that. Okay, so so just don't forget about sanity and Percy. Yeah. I'm okay with you having that skill. Limit some of your skills to what a dog can do, like no knowledge skills.
Sure.
You should definitely have notice and survival.
Oh yeah. Don't worry, I'll build a dog.
Yeah,
I will build a dog. He will be noble and rich, also a beastmaster.
He'll have $40,000 in a bank account.
Come here, Poochie.
On strength. Okay, I think that's I like that.
So your dog can't have gambling as a skill, can't have boating.
Are you saying a dog can't take a gamble?
I think he's saying a dog can't take a gamble.
Wait a minute, I've seen this artwork.
I have too. I've seen literal pictures.
So Rick, there is a tracking skill. I forgot about that. Down there. Yeah, down there at the very bottom, tracking by itself. On the skills list.
Oh.
Those are the 20 skills that you have available to us. So just real quick for those at home who maybe don't have the book, there are 20 skills in Savage Worlds: boating, climbing, driving, fighting, gambling, healing, intimidation, investigation, knowledge, which is open-ended, lockpicking, notice, persuasion, piloting, repair, riding, shooting, stealth, streetwise, survival, swimming, taunt, throwing, and tracking. I'm adding another one. This is a homebrew rule called sanity. Again, all skills have an attribute relation. Sanity is spirit. So just wanted to, again, reiterate that. I'm trying to drive that point home. Make sure you have sanity.
Then we wouldn't be here.
Right. The other thing.
It's more interesting to not and just take the -2.
When you hit, I'm giving everybody, including you, Percy, a free edge. This edge.
So humans will have 3 edges?
Humans will have 3 edges.
That's without hindrances?
Yeah, that's without hindrances. So the free edge I'm giving you it's typically called power points or more power points. I'm calling it more sanity points. And the pool that you start with is 10 sanity points. Every time I ask you to make a sanity check or say you did something that challenges your sanity, take a sanity hit, you decrease that value, that pool, down by 1. When you hit 0 sanity, you go insane. There are some detrimental effects that go into play once you become insane. And they're mainly in the real world. And these effects usually are pretty bad. You have a -4 to charisma instantly once you're insane. You have a insane stigma, like people instantly recognize. That's part of the charisma thing. Usually anybody with a -4 charisma, it's a noticeable detriment, but you have a stigma, so they think you're mad. They'll call you loony. They will treat you ill. So on the social encounter table, you'll instantly be starting at the bottom and maybe have to work your way up that. That's usually, again, a lot of challenge with that. And depending on how long you stay insane, you may pick up psychoses. There's a psychosis table in the horror book. Hopefully we won't get to that tonight. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we would hope not.
Hopefully.
I can get us there.
Also, the other detrimental effect is to any social encounter, you automatically take a -2 to all skill checks. So you're really going to want to balance your insane play with your sane play. In Wonderland, however, if you are insane, because we're all mad here, you just pick up the bloodthirsty edge against any and all other factions that you are currently either aligned against. So like if say later on down the road you've picked an alignment, or you're carrying somebody's badge, or you're with an obvious team anybody else in the world who isn't aligned with that same faction, you instantly either want to immediately go into conflict with them or they want to immediately go into conflict with you. There's going to be a fight. So you have to kind of watch that sanity-insanity balance, because that could lead to some detriment later on down the line.
All right, do you want to hear about my dog Grace?
Just in a second, let me get through one last thing.
I don't get to name you?
Not the race.
Oh.
Additionally, sanity
I heard
points.
My dog Grace.
Sanity points in the real world recover off of a short rest or like short recovery times. In Wonderland, however, because it's a maddening place, it takes a long rest, or what I would call like an overnight rest, someplace where you're not having to deal with constant madness. So you need the ability to longer recover. So, a short nap, a short recovery time, like you're sitting on a train or in a carriage ride, you may recover some sanity points. In Wonderland, that's not the case. You're constantly being assaulted by things unfamiliar to you. It takes a longer time to recover. So you don't pick them up like PowerPoints do, where you get 1 an hour. It's literally after resting periods.
Okay.
Just so that way y'all,
like D&D does it kind of.
Very much like D&D. So just so you understand that house rule and that balance. Additionally, I have a knowledge skill specific. So one of the very specific knowledge skills is, so in England at this time, we're coming off the downturn, but it was very popular, and for the age y'all's characters should be, with the exception of Percy's dog, there is the Knowledge Wonderland stat. The book has been out for about 30 years, and Through the Looking Glass has been out for 25. So it's still fairly popular. In fact, it was one of the most popular books, especially amongst children's literature, in the late 1800s. So because of that, there were people who legitimately knew it backwards and forwards. So I may from time to time say, if you have the Knowledge Wonderland skill, roll on it. You may have some insider information and know the way some things should work. They don't necessarily always will work that way, but at least it gives you that a little bit a better ability to have insider information or some understanding of things going on behind the scenes or in front of you to help explain the world. But again, it's a knowledge skill, so it's based off your smarts, depending on how smart you are and how familiar you were with the book. So like Rick, your character, because even though it was decently big in America, it wasn't as big for sure. So you may not, if you want it as a skill, you may want to only have it at a D4. You maybe are familiar with the book.
I wouldn't imagine where I grew. It's possible, but where I grew up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm saying it's different for different characters, but it is something you could think about. Okay, maybe I'm familiar with the book. I've seen the cover jacket, that sort of deal. That's almost a D4 worth. Like that's in between that D4 and untrained skill level. So you could think about having it. But again, that's 1 point wasted, so to speak, for your character if you want to really invest in other places.
It wouldn't be wasted in this game,
but you get what I'm saying.
I do.
And so the same goes for Kevin. The same goes for you, Mike. Especially given your character in the Watchmaker, I could see how maybe you spent some time, especially being educated, being familiar with your letters and numbers. I mean, I hate to say it, but the world was still vastly uneducated in the late 1800s. That's something you can think about taking as a knowledge skill.
Okay.
So where are we, guys? Have you all gone through attributes and skills up to this point?
Yeah, I'm doing my derived stats.
I'm doing my base edges right now.
Okay. Are you going to do hindrances first before you get to edges, or are you just going to pick your two free and then go into hindrances?
No, I've already got my hindrances.
Well, I gave you one for free, and then you get two.
Okay.
We got one for free. What?
So
one edge.
So I gave you the one free edge as in playing in my game because I'm giving you sanity points. That's why you get the 10, and then you get one. You get one edge.
I misinterpreted when Percy had said it's been a while since.
Yeah. Great. So remember, as a human, you get one free one. Everybody gets an edge at character creation. And then I'm giving you the free one. That's where the 3 comes in.
I don't count that one.
But the third one is sanity.
Yeah, your third one automatically is sanity. And then if you want to buy one with your hindrance points, then you can get 4 or 5.
Oh, can you use your hindrance point to build your character? You can use it any way you want, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So those 4 points for buying hindrances again. And then once you pick your hindrances, go ahead and write below that your fear and your stigma. So don't forget that I do need to know what those fears are, and I do need to know what those stigma, like some sort of, like Percy's a dog, but what is that dog scared of?
Rolled up newspapers.
Maybe, or something else. I don't know. Could have a fear. But think of something that again, you can play with it as not just a character, but something that, drives that character, motivates them beyond the standard. I want to be the goodest boy that ever gooded.
Oh boy, should I be a doubting Thomas?
Now, one thing it says in habits is -1 charisma. Is that just when it's an addiction? Because I would think in England, drinking is not a negative,
True.
And drinking is his habit.
So habit. If you take the minor version, it's a -1. Again, it's the whole idea.
Why would drinking be a -1?
So a -1 is that habit is such a crux to you. It's like,
I understand that if it's a major.
Well, so the whole idea with habit is it's meant to be, and you can look at so there's some more description. In fact, if you go to page, habit is, if you look at page 31, right down there, you can read it. It's more because it's irritating. You're constantly drinking, so people think you're always sauced. It sort of negatively affects your charisma. They never know if you're on the sauce or if you're lucid enough to understand what they're saying. That's the whole idea. It's more of an irritation to the rest of the party around you. Whereas a major habit is more like it's almost deadly. Like if you don't have a drink in your hand at all times and are constantly sipping it, you're gonna that's why it can do those sorts of things with fatigue or being without it. It can deprive you. And sometimes those habits can be overcome, but the whole idea there with habit, at least, is it's a minor. If you take it at the minor level, it's more like I'd prefer to have the bottle in my hand. I'd prefer to be drinking, and most people don't know to trust me because I'm either smoking or drinking or doing something that, again, they just don't know if they can trust you or believe you because of that habit. Whereas on the major, it's more debilitating to you as opposed to the party members around you.
It's an addiction.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the thing to think about there.
All right.
If you take doubting Thomas, I'll turn it into a major, but you've got to doubt everything hard.
No, I took curious, and I'm taking outsider, and I'm looking for another minor. Maybe.
Why don't you take the mean?
Then you can be mean to your dog.
All right, so Jason, I took doubting Thomas.
Oh.
You're fine with that. I wanted Kevin to be, because he's the hotshot cop. He doesn't believe anything he sees. He's got to proof it out. That's why I was going to make him take it at a major, and he literally has to proof everything out. So for you, what sort of, with doubting Thomas, what were you sort of, is it because you're so familiar with Gearworks and you have to see kind of math on the page for it to work out, or what?
So here's what I did. I did my major as being one eye.
Okay.
And I kind of put back in my concept that that was a loaded spring accident that took place in his workshop.
Nice. I can dig on that. I was thinking because you're also, monocle vision, sort of always staring down one thing. You've just got a bad eye. But yeah, no, that works.
So then as far as my other minor, I did phobia. And just because I wanted to have fun with it, I said clowns.
Okay. So
we'll leave clowns very, very loose in that statement, considering it's Wonderland.
Yes, we will. So real quick, what is that also going to be your fear, or do you have another like inside fear thing with your character? Are you going to straight run away from any and all clowns?
I think I'm going to end up doing the run away from any and all clowns routine.
Okay.
And then the last one, like I said, is a minor. I took doubting Thomas.
Okay.
And that's very much the tinkerer side. It's the I got to see how it works.
Right. No, and that's fine. I think that works at the minor level, especially for what I'll be throwing you into. So just make sure you play that up when it procs. So for sanity rolls, I'm not going to have you have like a challenge rating where you've got like a -2 inherent to it or anything like that. But from time to time, if it doesn't seem believable, make sure you kind of play into that. If that at all makes sense, and even if you want to self-impose, say, a penalty because it seems so far-fetched, by all means, speak up. I'm not gonna hold you hard to that because again, it's a minor one. But I think that works well.
Okay.
So, all right. So edges and hindrances. There's a lot of tables and a lot of things to look up, but hindrances are a lot of fun to play with. They help flesh out the character. Edges are actually kind of good augments to your character. So what sort of edges were y'all looking at? So Percy, I know you wanted to go through your dog real quick. Do you want to start with the dog and then go into your edges?
Yeah, so I actually did a little bit with the dog, pretty significantly to build a dog the way I feel like a dog should be. Because I think I am going to go with the big burly English Mastiff.
Okay.
So I had the attribute under D6 being what was it? Smarts, and then I have to spend double points on strength.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said I have a racial enemy, which is cats.
Okay.
Reasonable. It's another -1. I have -4 rolls against heat.
Okay.
Another -1 trait, and -1 to toughness.
Okay.
Another -1 trait.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then you said I started at -1.
Yep.
Automatically.
So the thing that it will be, because of your smaller size, even though you are a Mastiff, compared to a regular human, you'll be one size level smaller.
Yeah.
So because of that and the way Savage Worlds work for attack rolls, I actually have to get a 5 to hit you.
Okay, cool.
So it on a ranged attack.
Yeah.
It
because I'm small.
Because you're smaller.
Interesting.
So and a close attack, it's going to have to beat your toughness +2.
Okay, cool.
Mainly because not only your agility, but just because. So even though you have a smaller toughness, because you're harder to hit because of your size, I think that plays well with everything in general.
So with that, I think we'll need to go in and look and add another detriment, because I think small is like a +2 racial attribute, and I didn't think about that.
Okay.
So I didn't add small. But I think because it gives me such a bonus, I think I do need to go back and add in another negative.
Okay.
But here's what I added for my positives.
Okay.
I have +1 to parry.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I think I did that in the same vein of what you're
fighting is based off your parry roll. So yes,
right.
so you're good there. So yeah, it because of your size, it'll be a +3 to your parry then.
So I did that. I did the natural weapon of teeth. I didn't focus on the claws so much. When I think of dogs, like the claws are less the weapon.
They are for sure. But that's why the Rakshasans in the book, they use claws, but teeth. Like I said, you could translate that to teeth and
right. I did a keen sense of smell, so I get +2 notice when I'm smelling. I started with a tracking at D6, and I did that because tracking is based on smarts, but dogs are good at tracking. So to keep that tracking at a D4 at the beginning, I wanted to have a D6 in tracking. I went ahead and did that as a racial thing instead of spending points.
Okay.
And then I did begin with a D8 in agility.
Okay.
And I put my base pace at 10.
Okay. I think that works.
So what level is the small trait?
Small is let's go. I think that's an edge.
Well, I think it'll be a racial trait as well.
Yeah, but
I want to base it off of that just because that's how it's building out, and I don't want to use my edges on that.
Well, you won't have to. I'm just making sure. I'm maybe thinking of another system that uses small. Where is it? Because there are sizes and things like that in here, and I'm just trying to remember what they run off of. Or am I? Oh, that's right. I'm thinking of a different system. Never mind. So for this, just right now, Let me make sure. Size is a thing.
In order just to get it, do you have to put a point in just to be a D?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And to raise it costs another point. So it's 2 points to have a D6.
Yep.
Oh, that sucks.
Unless, of course,
Yes.
unless your attribute is a D4, and then it costs 3 points to get it to a D6.
Yes.
Always remember your attribute relations.
Mm-hmm.
Percy, are you going to be my dog?
Are you a good owner?
I treat my dogs fair. I have to. I'm an outsider in this country.
Oh, me too.
I know, right? How did I get you past customs?
Well, I'm not an outsider in the country. I'm just an outsider in that I'm looked down on by the regular denizens.
You could be a stray.
You're my loyal friend, Percy.
Yeah, my initial thought was to be a stray.
Okay,
But
hold on
Percy,
here. I had to go to the beast.
We can fight crime together in Wonderland.
We can fight crime.
So
Take a bite out of crime.
you were right. You've already done it properly because for a large dog, you have a -1 of toughness modifier, so you're all good there. Your minimum of toughness has to be 2, regardless of modifiers. Only insects and the like have a toughness score of 1, so I think you're fine there. Because what's your toughness at right now?
I mean, it's at a 6 with my vigor.
Yeah, so you're fine there. And then creatures of size of rats or pixies are very difficult to hit, especially when moving. Assuming if such a creature is active, attackers subtract 2 from any attack rolls directed at it. So any attack roll. So basically, for your size, it's a -2 to any attack roll against you. So I think you're good. I think that's just the standard modifier. That's what you get for being a dog.
Okay, I'm cool with that. I mean, and that I think that play because it says like one of the -2 abilities is like a hindrance like effect. I think me not being able to communicate is that, and then I think me being small is the edge type effect.
Yeah,
that counteracts with that. I think that works for me.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, then I think I'm done.
So do you have your what are your edges and hindrances?
Yeah. So hindrances, I took outsider.
Okay.
And then I took overconfident and big mouth. I bark at inopportune moments.
Okay, I can dig it. Which means once you get the ability to speak, you'll be talking at inopportune.
Oh, for sure I will. Yeah, I'm not like a puppy, but I'm not an old dog. So yeah, I took those, and overconfident means I think I can do anything.
As a big dog
should.
Yeah.
So those are my hindrances, and then edges. So far, I've got First Strike, which was my free one. I've got, of course, Sanity Points, and then Nerves of Steel.
Okay.
Nerves of Steel lets me ignore 1 detriment of wounds. So like that first wound, I ignore the -1 penalty, basically. And then First Strike lets me, if somebody moves near me, I can attack them once each round, basically like as they basically move next to me. And then I'm thinking for my last edge, because I still have 2 points, I kind of want to go with Quick,
just so that way you don't get a 5 or less on your.
Yeah, I think
that makes sense for a dog. In a lot of ways.
I can't decide if I want to go with Quick or what is the other one.
Level-headed
that gives you the 2 cards and you pick the best.
I would go with Quick just because it makes more sense for what you're playing.
Yeah.
I don't see why a dog would necessarily be level-headed. It doesn't,
because I'm trained. If I belong to the police force, then I've been trained to only kind of go on command type of thing.
So
I think I'm digging the idea. That's kind of my, if I'm a stray, Quick. If I belong to Kevin, level-headed.
So Kevin, does he belong to?
Which would you prefer?
I don't know. I think if I belong to you, then I can give you some more nonverbal cues that kind of move things along a little bit more often.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, that I think.
But you'll also have to obey.
And it also puts me in a.
No,
well,
doesn't mean that.
If he's a trained police dog, I'm telling you, I know a little about dogs. Okay, if he's a trained police dog, you tell him to sit, he will sit instantly. You tell him to come.
Sure.
You'll have commands. You'll have to work out those commands if you're going to be a police dog.
Well, this
you're
is
need
also
to work
before
out.
they had like fully active like canine.
Talk to the Germans about that. No,
I know.
Okay,
I
no.
know.
They had.
Anyway.
In fact, I don't think the English used police dogs.
I don't think they did.
You know,
Yeah,
I don't think New York didn't use police dogs.
No.
I brought you over.
Yeah, I'm just his dog, and he just has. I'm trained.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
So I think
you people trying to give me extra negatives all the
No,
time.
I'm just trying to. I mean, you're gonna.
This is why I GM, damn it.
all right. So Mike, now that we've had one pencil thrown down in anger.
Oh, I did take sleuth.
Cool. Do you have that written out? Do you know what that does?
I have it pulled up. I can save this picture.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, just so that way we've got it for the record, because that's such a good ability. I
can't do level-headed.
What is sleuth?
So it's out of the noir book. So Kevin, because peek behind the curtain, he's kind of built this character before, and I love this character. He this hot shop cop idea. There's in the Deadlands Noir, which is
keep us from getting stuck.
Yeah, Deadlands Noir is basically New Orleans noir setting.
Well, it's Deadlands in the Roaring 20s, basically.
Yeah.
Take the Deadlands splat and just progress it, and it's the same universe.
Oh yeah, but they have detectives. They have. I mean, it's your standard.
Because it's more than just New Orleans.
Yeah, but it's the Maltese Falcon. Yeah. It's a lot of that noir aesthetic, and they've done it well, and so they have a edge in there. If you want to just quickly read it off, so that way
this edge requirements are it's novice, smarts 6+, notice 6+. Your flatfoot has a knack for spotting things most other folks, even the cops, miss. You can spend a Benny to have your character find any and all relevant clues in a scene. No roll necessary.
Yep. So basically, he gives me a Benny, which Benny's in the Savage World system. We'll go over that real quick now, because I'm glad you reminded me. You have to spend
we can go over it after.
Yeah.
We're still in character creation.
Yeah, but just real quick, Bennies are your kind of get out of jail free card. Every character starts off with 3 unless they have a special edge. Those can be spent to modify the roll or re-roll or interject a thing to the scene, or like with Kevin's edge, he sees things beyond just anything there. So like he said, if things are stuck or if things are moving along, he can go, hey, I'm giving you this and I'm sleuthing my solution. So I think that's a great edge. So sorry you got cut off there, Mike, but I guess we'll go with Kevin real quick since he gave us. Oh, are you done?
Yeah, you can go back to Mike. I was just double checking.
Yeah, you're fine with that.
Before
okay.
You moved on.
No worries. Okay, so Mike, go ahead and give us just your quick rundown of character. What I know you talked about the hindrances. What did you take all? Did you say all your edges? Sorry, just trying to go through that again.
All right. So my edges. Basically, the first one that I took was Jack of all trades.
Okay.
So gain a D4 in a skill or a D6 with a raise until replaced.
Cool.
The next one I figured was right up his alley, MacGyver.
Yep.
Quickly create improvised devices from scraps.
Yep.
Obviously, the sanity edge that we just talked about, and the last one I took was Scholar, so +2 to any one knowledge skill, which went to Wonderland.
Okay, I can dig on it. So you're a bit of a scholar. Just so you know, on MacGyver, and just for those at home, the tools that you quickly create, make sure, like when you tell me, and Percy and I were already talking about this, and I'll tell you the same thing with the MacGyver thing. Make sure you're gathering things and say what you're kind of gathering or you're looking for. I won't always make you make a survival roll, but just kind of keep track of, hey, I've got these sorts of tools at my disposal to make these sorts of things. So like in certain situations, like if you go through a flower garden and you find some seedlings or saplings or vines or something, then like the next time you need rope, hey, I've got these vines, I can MacGyver a rope real quick. That way it kind of keeps the narrative flow going, but it's not just I pull this out of my back pocket that we didn't know I had sort of deal.
Okay.
Kind of just keep track of maybe some things you're running down, because Wonderland will be full of stuff, but it's incumbent a little bit on you and a little bit on me to work those things out of what you get, because again, you're not going to be able to have every tool available, but as long as you're doing due diligence and gathering, I don't see why you couldn't have some things made available to you, if that makes a lot of sense.
Now, I do have a question for you, because obviously I'm not going to be a major physical character here.
Yeah.
Are you playing Encumbrance?
So Encumbrance will only be things that So like your little tools like you keep around, you'll have a knapsack or a baggie. It won't weigh anything unless like you want to pick up the kitchen sink. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like saplings, seedlings, like that won't weigh much, even if you pick the entire garden. Like again, you won't have the entire garden at your disposal. Like it will be limited to what makes rational sense.
So you're going to treat it more like an incidental. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Unless, of course, you're picking up a big item that you maybe want to use for later, like, heaven forbid you find one of those overly comically sized mallets. You don't know when you might get to use it, but you might find a way to weaponize that, like the rocket mallets in Fallout. You could find some inventive things to do with that. Things like that you may have to worry about carrying around, but the standard, like basic, like I said, vines, seedlings, chess pieces, bits of plastic, bits of this, that, and the other, haberdashery stuff, no weight worry, don't worry about it.
What were beyond the edges and all that stuff? What were the other things we needed to give you the fear and the...
So for you won't have the social stigma or like a social tick or thing. Like you've already got the big mouth sort of thing. But as a dog, like what thing, like
what are the things that you were talking about? It was a fear and something else, right? A phobia and
a fear or a phobia or like a social stigma, something that that would be a detriment to you in, like if somebody brought it up. Or one of my perfect examples is you stutter when you talk to a pretty girl, like those sorts of things, just things to kind of flesh out and give a little bit more.
I think mine is fire of any kind.
Yeah. And like I said, you already have plenty of stuff to work with on top of the fact. I think, like I said, the fear phobia is more the things, just like with Deadlands.
Oh, and I know how you build our alternate guys too. Nice.
Yeah, which I was gonna get to that.
Yeah, I know. We'll edit that out. It's fine.
Oh no, it's fine. I actually wanted to explain it in session 0 just so people knew.
Cool.
Mainly because you've already played it before, and I don't want it to be a super surprise. So I was going to get to that, but Kevin, I think you've mostly gone through some of your character there. Do you want to just go ahead and finish them off?
So edge-wise, I took Sleuth and Alertness.
Okay.
And then the free one, more Sanity.
Yeah.
For hindrances, I took Outsider, Curious, and Loyal.
Yeah, Loyal works. Okay. So are you loyal specifically to the party, yourself, or your dog, or what how you're playing that loyalty?
Well, I'm playing it more as like I will not leave people in trouble.
Perfect. Okay.
At least people I'm connected to.
That works well enough for me. That
includes dogs.
What's your fear? What sort of the thing
I
that
haven't really
goes?
Decided that.
All right.
I don't.
I'll come back to you on that. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Rick, how far along are you? I know.
I'm pretty good.
Do you have your edges and hindrances?
I do.
Okay. Once we get through that, I think we're coming up on an hour, aren't we?
Yeah, we're a little bit over.
Okay, well,
we'll finish up the session 0 before we cut it.
No, I agree. I wanted to make sure, being cognizant of people's times here, and we'll edit some of this out, I'm sure, and like what I'm saying now will probably get edited, but
maybe not.
We'll see what happens.
Anyway,
it depends on how froggy I'm feeling in editing mode.
Anyway, so just real quick, what are some of your things? Then I'll go over the last little bits of house rules / mechanics that we need to cover, and then we'll get kind of sort of right into it. So. Okay. What sort of things were you looking at?
Code of honor.
Okay.
Is one of my hindrances.
So what were you taking that at the major or minor?
Major.
Cats.
Okay.
And my one of my other hindrances is I'm wanted, which I'd be a deserter from the
right
military U.S. Army.
Which, because given your remote location at a minor, I think that makes sense, because wanted can also be major or minor. So.
Yes. And my habit is drinking, which as a minor, I do get sauced once in a while.
Okay. No, I think that works.
Minor, MINOR or ER?
I'm thinking almost Tom Cruise in the character is very similar to Tom Cruise's character in The Last Samurai, but, obvious differences, but, a lot of similarities.
Right.
My skills or my edges are alertness and quick draw.
Okay.
being a scout. My fear is claustrophobia, because one of the things that the Comanche would do is they would actually, and he heard these horror stories as a kid, is they would take an animal and empty out all its insides, and they'd sew somebody up inside of it and put it out in the heat of the sun. And as the skin contracted, it would slowly suffocate them to death. And he was horrified by that thought.
Sounds
he had
brutal.
Oh, when you read about some of the stuff the Comanche did, all those things burying
Thank
people.
you for that nightmare fuel. That's going to work wonderfully for what I'm about to get into. Do you have your fear, Mr. Kevin?
Cats.
Cats.
Specifically, like multitude of cats.
Right. Okay. So
That's
like
why
a
I have
herd
a
of
loyal
cats.
dog.
Herds of cats. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm still off-putted by a cat. It's probably it's a phobia, but it's like controlled. It's when it gets to multitudes of cats.
That cat skeeves me out. Or holy crap, there's 1,000 cats.
So
oh no, there's 3 cats.
Bam, bam, bam.
Black cat.
So Mike, did you have a fear real quick? I'm trying to remember.
It was clowns.
Clowns, right? That was your phobia, but you're also playing that as your fear, so it's gonna be major for you. All right. So just so y'all know, and be thinking about this as you develop your character. The last house rule is this is Wonderland, but this is Wonderland gone wrong. Things have happened. Things are off kilter. We're all mad here. You mad? All the best people are mad, sort of deal. But it's madness in the bad way. The real world would look down upon this. It would be off-putting. There's a lot of issues here. But those phobias, those fears, those things that make you tick, and the way you play in the game can develop what I'm calling your id, or your insane personality. You eventually will develop a second character. They inhabit your body. They retain most of your abilities in most all cases, with the exception of you, Mr. Percy, because things will change dramatically for you more so than the other players. Basically, what will happen is you then play your insane character when you are insane. You have access to magic now, because Wonderland is a magical place. There is an inherent magic, but it runs off of your insanity. So the inverse is true. You then get insanity points once you have your insane character sheet. And because of that, you kind of have new edges, new hindrances, mainly skewed towards your madness or your fears or your other hindrances and how you've played the game. Kevin, I love you to death, but you came up with a brilliant character that works really well, and you were going to be...
I can go back to the hate of injustice if you'd like.
Well, just to explain it, he was going to have to...
I'll do that.
he was going to have to go to and make 6 different character sheets.
I'll do injustice.
What?
Literally, because of how he was playing his character, he was going, because of the switch he was flipping on and off, it depended on what police force he was a part of and how he was playing it. So depending on what social hierarchy he was in, whether he was a chessman, a heart, a plant.
So I can give the explanation. When the party discovered we had the ability to use magic, I shifted my badge and changed it. Well, it was already one thing, and then I changed it, and it changed to the Queen of Hearts. I was recognized as an executioner amongst the people with that badge, so that gave me one character, and then later I shifted it to another, and it was something else.
Oh, so that's why you want to be a cop.
I figured, and that investigative piece for the characters would have been interesting. So, got 2 combat characters, 2 non-combat characters. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So basically, that will be happening.
Well, I don't know if a dog's combat, but
yeah, and I'm not sure how combat. I've got some combat skills. But...
Can you get a D6 in smarts?
Yeah, I can only get a D6 in smarts.
You could take sleuth also.
Anyway, long story short, how these things happen is depending on if you want to switch, as long as you're at a not 0 value on sanity or insanity, you aren't stuck in any one situation. You can roll to go back and forth between the characters. So say we're coming up on the real world and you still have some insanity points left, and you know you don't want to be insane in the real world. You will have to roll your sanity die, and based on where you are in your point scheme, that will set the difficulty. So if you're at full value, you don't have to get any raises. As long as you get a success, you're good. You instantly make that shift. If you're below half your value, you need 1 raise. If you're below your quarter your value, you're at 3 raises. And if you're at 0, you're stuck. So at 20 points, if you're below 5, and if you're at 4 to 1 insanity point value, you would have to get 3 raises on your sanity roll, because you're that far down. You're that close to being like truly insane. Just so everybody kind of understands the house rule and mechanic I've got there. That's really the last little bit that I've got, is that the players eventually will have their insane character. They're not having them tonight because, again, I want them to role play these characters first to get a feel for them and how
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Exactly. So on that note, I thank y'all for listening. I hope y'all have enjoyed this session 0, this planning session, also a bit of the background of the way my brain works. And with that, I will bid y'all adieu. Good night, and keep on adventuring.